All right, everyone. Hopefully, everyone's having a good day. And first and foremost, I know it's been a minute or so since I've uploaded anything, and I basically just wanted to just take a mental break from here. Usually, most of January, basically like the end of December, most of January is most of the time a slow time. And I just wanted to just concentrate on other things, just take a mental break with this. And basically, I'm back. And what better way to start out than talking about console exclusives? Because let's just face it. I mean, I'll just say this: when I was younger, yeah, there's a reason why the term "young and dumb" was always a thing. But when you're kids, you have a particular platform and you want it to be like the best one out of everyone because that's what you have. Now that that I'm older, you know what? Console exclusives to me doesn't really matter anymore. As long as I'm able to play the game on the platforms I have, I don't really care. So, with that being said, let's talk about Xbox potentially releasing first party games on other platforms. Okay. So there's been rumors going around. This one's not necessarily new, but it's HiFi Rush, Sea of Thieves, which I find kind of funny that people would be generally upset that those two games would potentially go multi platform. Sea of Thieves is like what 6 or 7 year old game at this point. Hi-Fi Rush, believe came out about last year. It's like a double A style game. It was released $30 or in Game Pass, and that was it. So now that there's potential reasonings for games like Starfield, Indiana Jones, and potentially others being released on competing platforms, it makes you think that maybe there's two folds to this. Now, first and foremost, from my understanding when it comes to Indiana Jones, this game was actually been in develop, supposedly been in the works even before Microsoft bought Bethesda. So this could have been something that was in the contract to be multi-platform regardless, and Microsoft is just still allowing this game to be released on multi-platform. But let's just say that's not true. I'm just going to say this. For Microsoft to release first party games on competing platforms actually makes sense, and I'll tell you why. Because their bread and butter for the Xbox division right now is Game Pass. That's all it is. Okay? Having a bunch of studios and having a bunch of IPs allows them to basically have control over the games that they can release on Game Pass. It's just a way for them to have new content being released on Game Pass. If Microsoft is trying to be the Netflix of gaming with Game Pass, then yes, they actually need a crap ton of studios and a crap ton of IPs to make sure they always have content being released through Game Pass. So, with that being said, the reason why it makes sense to release games on competing platforms, they can be like, all right, we're still going to, if you have no interest of buying an Xbox or playing games on PC or subscribing to Game Pass, fine, great, no hate to you. If you still want to buy the game outright on those platforms, go right ahead. We will still make money off of you. And that's all it is. And And they can also use that as a way that, yes, this game, let's just say when Indiana Jones comes out, they can literally just advertise like it's being released on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. But if you have Game Pass, you can already play it because you're subscribed to it. You don't have to worry about buying anything extra. If you already have an Xbox or if you already have a PC that can play it, you already have access to it. Yeah, don't worry about the PlayStation. So that makes sense. Twofolds. It will still allow people to still play the game and buy it, and Microsoft's still making money from it. And two, it can create a marketing ploy to get you over to Game Pass. Because let's just face it, yes, Phil Spencer has said that he wants Game Pass on every single device. In actuality, that is never going to happen. It does not matter how well like Nintendo and Microsoft plays nice together. Nintendo will never be interested in having a Game Pass app on a Nintendo platform, because why would Nintendo allow an app that you can stream games and basically bypass anything from Nintendo and still use a Nintendo hardware to play Game Pass or to use Xbox Game Pass? It makes no sense. It makes no financial sense. It makes no business sense. It does make business sense for Microsoft to release first-party games on Nintendo and PlayStation, because Microsoft will still make money from it and the platform holders will still make money from it. So that's why that would be okay. But a Game Pass type service to stream games, they would not allow that. Unless Microsoft pays quite a bit of money to allow the app to even be on those platforms. But even then, Sony and Nintendo would not want to even cross that line with that service. Because let's just face it, say whatever you want about digital distribution, say whatever you want about cloud gaming, say whatever you want about subscription services. If all you care about is just playing a bunch of different games, you don't really care about the collecting aspect, or if the game disappears, goes away, who cares? You just move on to the next thing. Then yeah, paying, 10, 12 bucks for the base version of Game Pass, all the way to like $22 or so for Game Pass Ultimate. If you're willing to just pay that and that's it, and then that's how you just play games, then yeah, you can say whatever you want about like physical media and game preservation and all that, but if at the end of the day, if all you care about is just to play games, move on with your life, then yeah, a service like Game Pass will make sense for you. So when it comes to Microsoft, you have to remember this, that Microsoft, their bread and butter is selling services. Okay? Like Office 365, that's a service. You can't really just outright buy the software anymore. You have to subscribe to it. That's what they're doing with Xbox. They are slowly turning it into a service for gaming. And it makes sense. Yes, Microsoft does make the Xbox console, and at least as long as the other platform holders has no intention on having a Game Pass like service on their consoles, then yeah, there's going to be an Xbox console, because guess what? Even though the console market every single year slowly creeps down, is not necessarily going up. It's mobile and PC games that are the ones going up. In fact, consoles has been either stagnant or slowly going down. So when you think about it, a lot of the things Microsoft has been doing since the original Xbox is what is the norm now. So Microsoft with the original Xbox popularized the whole online gaming through a console. Yes, there were other players before Xbox. Rest in peace, Dreamcast. I remember back in the day playing online games on my Sega Dreamcast I bought on $99.99. And it was fun. It was great. But Microsoft did it better. That was their killer app, is Xbox Live. Their killer app currently is Game Pass. That is their killer app when it comes to gaming. And, when you think about it, it's like, wait a minute. Why have dedicated hardware when we already developed the games on the PC? As long as the PC is able to run it, who cares if they have an Xbox or not? If they can play it on PC, they can play it on a Steam Deck. If someone has a ROG Ally and it can run on it, what's the big deal? They still either bought the game or paid for Game Pass. So as long as you're giving money to Microsoft to have access to either a single game or a service, Microsoft doesn't care because they're still making money from it. So just remember that when it comes to these kinds of releases, it's a strategic move what Microsoft is doing. I'm not saying they've never made mistakes. They've made plenty of mistakes. Okay? The Xbox One generation was the generation that they were not supposed to lose, and they did. And Game Pass was the result of that. So yeah, at the end of the day, Microsoft is going to be looking at this and say, this is a way to expand the reach of players or customers, and they can use that as a way to entice people to just subscribe to Game Pass. So, in a way, if I was working at Microsoft, if I was working in the Xbox division and how to expand the Xbox brand, this is exactly what I would be telling them. It's just start releasing these games on competing platforms. Just charge them at full price. But you can also just tell people, it's if you don't want to pay these kinds of prices, we have Game Pass. Just give us 12 to $22 a month, and you have access to these games. You don't even have to buy the Xbox Series X. You can just buy the Series S. I know during Christmas they were selling those things for $200, $220 or so. So Microsoft doesn't really care where you're playing these games, as long as you're just playing the games and either just buying the games or subscribing. Disclaimer, I subscribe to Game Pass Ultimate because at least I can either play it on my Xbox, on my desktop computer, or on my ROG Ally, which is part of the... I'll be honest with you, this is part of the reason why I still use the ROG Ally more than my Steam Deck. But at the end of the day, Microsoft is still getting money from me while I'm not necessarily buying the games, either physically, which supposedly they're going to get rid of their entire physical media, or at least they've dissolved the physical media division of Xbox, and slowly telling retailers like, yeah, just get rid of all the physical media stuff. We don't care about that. Um, yeah, I mean, why have shelf space for physical media? Now, I will say is that I do like physical media. The argument I would say about the games today, though, is that it does not really make sense because let's just face it, the game on the disc itself is either really not there or it's not the game when you actually even play it at launch either because of like day one patches, new content, they just make changes over time, things like that. So yeah, I mean, say whatever you want about physical media. I like physical media. I mean, there's a reason why physical media existed, but when it comes to how these games are being developed today, I'm not saying it's right. I still think games should be released at a completed state, but no one really does that, and people just still buys up incomplete games and complain about, oh man, this game's having so many issues that long. It's like, well, if you want to save a little money, just wait a couple months. Usually the game prices goes down, and you'll have a game that is more fully patched, more stable, all that stuff, and you get the game at a discounted price. Or if you're like me and just subscribe to Game Pass and call it a day. It is what it is, but I'll just be honest with you. Some of these games that people would like be upset about, like HiFi Rush, it's like it was a $30 game when it first came out. Okay. It's, what they consider a double A game, and it came out a year ago. Okay. So you can either play it on PC or on Xbox. So now what's wrong with allowing Switch players and PlayStation players to play the game? And in fact, Microsoft was make more money from that game being released on those platforms, because there's always going to be a group of people that have no intentions on either subscribing to a service or buying an Xbox. And they know that. So why try to gatekeep everything on a singular platform when they can be like, why don't we just release the games wherever we can? And if people want to subscribe to Game Pass, they can do that. This is what we offer. If they don't want to do that, they just want to buy the game outright, we'll just sell them the game, and that's it. So I don't know why people would be either upset or like making fun of like Xbox for doing this. So it actually makes financial sense, and this actually allows them to even grow bigger in the gaming industry. Basically become like the place to release your games on, because first and foremost, what is it, like 25, 30 million plus Game Pass subscribers? That right there automatically gives you a potential like 20, 30, around 25, 30 million players right there at launch for people to just try it out for being a subscriber to Game Pass. And let's not ignore the fact that when it comes to games like Pal World, what was that one tweet I saw earlier? Yeah, right here. Pal World. And this is a game that's not even available on Nintendo or PlayStation. Over 19 million players. On Steam is over 12 million players. On Xbox is 7 million players. So for anyone out there that says, oh, you can't really have a successful game if you don't release it on PlayStation. That's not true. And there's been countless examples in the past, even before Pal World even came out. Okay, remember there was a game that first came out on Xbox as an Xbox exclusive. Um, it was like a survival storytelling game where you can like switch between worlds in like real time. Oh, man, what was that? Anyway, it was heavily promoted early on in the Xbox Series launch Windows days. And when the game came out, the developer of the game already announced that, yeah, we've already made our money back and profited strictly on Xbox. And that was like within the first week of release. So you don't need a game to be available every single place out there to make money. It is still possible to release it on a particular platform and still make money, get the initial hype, and then release it later on other platforms and make even more money that way. So it is possible. And this is just another example of how games that people actually want to play will play on the platform that it's on. Okay? So let's just say what do we want about Pal World. I played it, and I'm not the biggest survival player out there, but I can appreciate why people would actually like this. And for a survival game, this is actually one of the few times where I actually did put some hours into it. I'm not very far into it, but it is possible for games like this to be successful on a non-PlayStation Nintendo platform. Let's just not forget, too, that PC and mobile are basically the two biggest platforms out there. And that is where Microsoft is heading towards. They're heading towards the PC mobile market. So, I mean, it is what it is, but at the end of the day, it is a business. And, PlayStation has been slowly releasing PlayStation exclusive games on PC. And I don't know why. I just find it funny how people would either be upset or making fun of Xbox players because Xbox is releasing first party games on competing platforms when Sony for a little while now has been releasing their first party games on PC, and it seems like PlayStation fanboys are ignoring that fact. But maybe because in their eyes they see as PC as a different beast and the console is all about the console hardware box itself. But truthfully, the console side of things, it is a stagnant business model. So the fact that Microsoft knew that for a while, that's why they're expanding out, and why Sony is very, very slowly creeping their way into that direction, but they're also having other internal issues going on within the PlayStation division. But Nintendo, however, is in their own thing. we'll see what happens. It could be one of those situations where Nintendo would be forced to start releasing games on competing platforms, but I think out of the three, Microsoft or Xbox is clearly first one out of the gate to just start releasing games on everything. Sony is like testing the waters, but still want to do the whole console thing heavily. And then Nintendo is going to be like years and years and years down the line before they even consider doing that, unless something clearly happens with their Switch successor that completely flops. Like, we need these games on everything right away. So we'll see what happens. All I can say is that when it comes to PC, trust me, you will eventually just play everything on PC because PC Master Race.